pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantic. Flight outside SC off. SC off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
Good afternoon, space fans. We've got another launch window opening up here down at the Space Coast. It's United Launch Alliance standing by on pad 41, currently in a hold. The NASA spaceflight team will be bringing you live views and commentary from Cape Canaveral. Camera situated out on the ITL Causeway today. I'm John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight. Toss some information for me in chat. Can you see the video signal? Do you hear the sound of my voice? Let me know that everything is good to go here, because you know how we do it. What's up? Hey, Alejandro. How's it going? Welcome to the stream. So like I said, the NASA spaceflight team is standing by to bring you some coverage of what will hopefully be a launch in a little bit here. But checking in out on the ITL Causeway today, we have Thomas. Thomas, how are you doing today? Can we do we have you on comms?
How's it going, Das? I'm doing well. It is windy out here on the causeway, so I apologize if my audio is not great. I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking unless that dies down, but it's looking good out here on the causeway.
All right, so y'all, Thomas Burkhardt, editor, live stream host, commentary, audited camera operator, you name it. Thomas does it for NASA Spaceflight. He is out on the ITL Causeway, and it's super windy today. You can see that water moving in the foreground, but he is crewing the camera out there for us, and we will jump back to him on an occasion. He was maybe a little bit quiet there, but that's because his noise suppression on his mic is trying to fight that wind. We have a ton of wind out there today, and we are standing by for this launch of NROL-101. Also, back in the studio, doing some remote commentary for us, we should have Chris Gebhardt. Chris, are you with us right now?
I am indeed. Do you hear me loud and clear?
Good question for chat. Chat, can you all hear Chris Gebhardt, assistant managing editor for NASA Spaceflight there?
That's always a delicate question to ask chat. I never seem to be balanced right.
We're working on it. We're working on it. They're saying that they can hear you.
Will.
Yeah, balanced, right. So Chris will be doing some remote commentary from his home today, doing some Q&A like we do on the live streams and stuff like that. Also back in the studios, multiple distributed geographic studios, Michael Baylor. Michael, I think we've got you on comms. Are you planning on talking?
And I have my voice, or I have the ULA countdown net in my ear. We're not allowed to broadcast that, so we won't be playing it on stream, but we are allowed to have me relay exactly what they say. So whenever they say something of note on their countdown net, I will report back as to what they have said. We are continuing to wait to hear if they're able to resolve the issue. There's currently a ground system valve problem, according to ULA, with the liquid oxygen systems associated with filling up the vehicle's propellant. So we're waiting for the teams at the pad to attempt to fix that, and once we have a status update, I will report back on that.
Excellent. So Michael Baylor there. Go ahead, Chris. Yes.
We're talking about a ground systems issue. That would certainly seem to be the dominant issue in the back half of the year for everyone trying to get off the ground from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. But this time it would be a LOX valve, as Michael was saying. So it will be interesting to see how quickly they can resolve this heading toward the end of our window today.
Again, so everybody joining us, we are currently in a hold for NROL-101. You can see that Atlas V out there on the launch pad. Even though it's super windy, it is not a wind hold right now. It is actually an equipment hold. Like Chris G just said, a LOX valve was our information from United Launch Alliance on what is causing this. We have a super long window, but it's one of those sneaky classified windows today. The window opened. What time did the window open, Chris?
The window opens today at 17:54 local time, EST, which is UTC -5 right now here in the US. And the window extends to roughly 2010 EST, or 8:10 p.m. Local time at the Cape. And we say roughly because that's sort of what's been put out there for the end of the window. But since the actual window itself is completely classified with the mission, it's possible that there's additional time at the end that could be utilized versus what's been.
It's one of those things where
publicized.
they because this is an NROL, right, a classified space mission.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what the window is because if they told us exactly what the window is, we would have more information we could use to try and guess what orbit it's going into. So they do sort of limit the information we have. Of course, you have exclusion zones, you have safety areas, the places where ships can't go and planes can't go, and sort of the splashdown areas where the stage is going to come down. And so we know a little bit about the orbit that it's going into, but they do sort of limit some of our information just because this is a classified payload going into a mostly classified orbit on a mostly classified launch. They sort of limit that information for us. Is that a fish jumping? I think I
That
keep
was
seeing
indeed
fish.
a fish jumping.
Weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of those out here these days.
Okay. So again, if you're just joining us, NASA Spaceflight Crew will be here. We are currently in a hold. We do not have a launch time for you, but we are going to do some live Q&A as we sort of hang out, standing by for this launch. And what do we say? About 2.5, 3 hours in the window. I think it was
uh,
17.
5:54 to 8:10, so just over 2 hours.
Just over 2 hours. All right, good deal. So there are just over 2 hours in the window, folks. But in the meantime, we'll be hanging out doing some live Q&A. If you have questions for us, tag us into chat as @NASA Spaceflight and ask your questions, especially if they're relevant to the mission. But we're probably going to have a little bit of time here. So if there are some other questions, we may also breach into some other objects. But Chris, really quickly, tell us a little bit about the mission. I mean, we mentioned that it's sort of a classified nature. But what sort of rocket is it on and that sort of thing? What do we know?
Yeah, yeah. So this mission's actually pretty notable, not just for its clandestine nature, but actually there's a lot to write about and a lot to report on for this mission. So this is the Atlas V rocket flying in its 531 configuration, meaning it's flying with a 5-meter diameter payload fairing, 3 solid rocket motors, and a single engine Centaur upper stage. Now, this particular configuration of the Atlas has flown before, but what makes this Atlas very, very special is those solid rocket motors that you see do not come from the company that previously supplied them. So every Atlas mission Atlas V mission you have seen previously since they started flying in 2002 has flown with Aerojet Rocketdyne's AJ-60A solid rocket boosters. But in an effort to save money and allow for the solid rocket motors, or a heritage version of the solid rocket motors that the upcoming Vulcan rocket will fly with, ULA actually went and contracted with Northrop Grumman, who will build those Vulcan solid rockets, and they built smaller versions of them to very closely mimic the performance of the AJ-60A solid rocket boosters. So the boosters that you see on the Atlas today are actually known as and here's where the pronunciation the debate is going to come in. I call them the GEM-63s, GEM. So these are the GEM-63s, the graphite epoxy motors, 40 inches in diameter from Northrop Grumman, and they will be the same diameter for Vulcan, but they'll be stretched and slightly taller. And those are known as the GEM-63XL solid rocket motors. So a very prominent change to the Atlas, but visually no change, because they built, as I said, they not only built them in terms of performance to very closely mimic the AJ-60As, but they also built them so that basically the outer mold line of the vehicle and the rocket didn't change. So ULA didn't have to recertify anything with this particular configuration and the changeover between the solid rocket motors. And that's sort of, in a nutshell, the biggest look at the outside of the rocket. And of course, there's a lot to talk about inside that payload fairing as well, but I felt like I was talking a bit long there. So
Well, no, I was going to ask, why switch it up? I mean, if they had SRBs that were working, why switch suppliers? Were there problems with the old SRBs? Did the company go out of business? Like, why are they changing it?
yeah, no, it really just was an effort to save money and to allow Northrop Grumman to get some flight time and some flight history with the GEM-63 solid rocket boosters before the upscaled and uprated versions begin flying on Vulcan, which would be next year if those schedules hold. So it really came down to a cost and streamlining effort across United Launch Alliance. So yeah, there was nothing wrong with the AJ-60As. They performed flawlessly. In fact, they had they have a flawless performance record on the Atlas V. So it had nothing to do with their performance ability or anything like that. And it's worth noting too that Aerojet Rocketdyne is still represented on the Atlas V rocket because they provide the RL-10C1 engine that is flying today as the engine for the Centaur upper stage. So still represented, but just not in two propellant realms on this particular mission.
I like it. Two propellant realms. Nice.
I try.
Again, y'all, we are just spooling up the stream here, doing some live Q&A. If you have a question for us, tag us at NASA Spaceflight in chat. Questions will go into a queue, and we'll get some answers. But NROL-101 currently in a hold. You can see the live camera here from Cape Canaveral. This is actually the ITL Causeway. Thomas Berghardt out there operating the camera for NSF today, and Chris G and I back in the studio doing some Q&A. So, Chris, I'm going to run a couple super chats really quickly because that's why we can keep doing this, and then we'll grab some more questions. James Brown, nice. James Brown says, it's a question actually. Why was the Atlas V configuration changed from 551 to a 553? And what was the reason for that change? So what's going on there, Chris?
Why was the Atlas V configuration changed from a 551 to a 531?
Does that ring any bells for you?
I don't actually ever remember this mission being a 551 before. To be very honest, when I first saw it on the manifest, it's always been a 531 for this one, which actually does provide a little bit of clue into what the payload might be and eliminate some possibilities. But if someone in chat has a different recollection, I honestly don't remember this mission ever being a 551, but always a 531.
Yeah, maybe if somebody else can give us more information or clarify the question there, James Brown. But
yeah, because that's a huge performance difference.
Two more SRBs, yeah. All right, so I got two more super chats here really quickly. A Rough Rider Show, how you doing today? Always appearing in the chat with the super chats over there. $5 and saying, I guess that's I don't know how to say that. Chris G, he's back. So
I am, yes. Hello.
Rough Rider Show, thank you for the $5. And then Harry Young, another regular there, saying, hi, Chris. Glad to hear your voice after what feels like a small eternity. Also, hi, Doss, Thomas, and Michael. What's up, Harry Young? How's it going?
Thank you much, Harry. Thank you much. Appreciated. And good to be back. Good to be back, too.
And that gets us down to the end of the super chat queue there. Again, if you do a super chat, we don't always get to them in real time, but they go into a queue and we hop over to them on occasion. But, Moldy Space Industries, one of the other regulars coming through here with the hashtag Thomas Fan Club, Moldy Space Industries. I think Thomas says MSI. Thank you so much for the $5 there, Moldy. We appreciate you. So let's see here.
I need to answer this question from Jack.
Yeah,
first,
go ahead.
Because my commentary on there's a pronunciation debate around the GEM-63s. To trigger our one of our photographers, Mike Deep's pet peeves, I sometimes call them GEMs just to annoy him. That's the pronunciation debate. So shout out Mike Deep. Yes, just to annoy him. Yep.
That's disgusting. Gems? Nobody calls them gems. What? Why would you do that?
Oh, Doss, we have so many things that that we can purposely mispronounce to annoy members of our team in good nature.
I would also like to come on the record as that is terrible.
Thomas says that's terrible.
Yeah. It's a little in joke between the whole GIF debate for those things. So that's what it is. Yes.
Chris, I'm going to do this really quickly. I mean, 5:30 with the time change, we're rapidly rolling up on sunset over there. But
we are
look
indeed.
at the view from Fleet Cam right now. This is live from Port Canaveral, and those clouds starting to roll in. It was nice and clear a lot of the day, and now we're getting some of those sunset lit clouds with that big cargo ship in the foreground. So hopefully none of these clouds affect the latter part of the window. What's our weather looking like? Are we still good to go on weather?
Well,
Yeah. Oh,
the weather
yeah. Go ahead,
forecast is
Michael.
favorable, but that weather forecast assumes the entire window they can launch in. So, given that they're now narrowing down their possibilities to launch in the launch window, we do not have a weather forecast specific to the remaining part of the launch window yet. So,
Gotcha. So with those
Yeah,
clouds
but
sort of rolling in.
there's a good question along that same front there from John M here, who's asking how long it takes to get from the end of this hole that they're in now to lift off, which is a good point. So they are currently holding the count at an unplanned point in the countdown. So they're holding it T-minus 1 hour 47 minutes, and there is roughly a 14-minute built-in hold at the T-minus 4-minute mark that they could shorten if they absolutely had to, and everything from the moment they picked up and continued went very, very well. But roughly speaking, there, whatever you see as the T-minus time, add roughly 14 minutes to that. To get that launch minus time. Again, with some wiggle room on either side. And again, they're holding right now at T-minus 1 hour 47 minutes in the count, which is right before we came on air. Michael, you and I were just talking about this, which is basically right before they would have started loading the liquid oxygen into the vehicle at that point in the count.
yeah, and the fact that it's cloudy now, I mean, an hour and 47 minutes is a long time to go. So, it could easily be clear by whenever they decide to launch today. But Thomas, if you can hear us, how can you see like a lot of clouds moving in from your location at near the pad?
There are clouds that are right above the pad currently, but there's lots of blue skies surrounding those. So there's plenty of open patches. I don't think that should be too big of a deal.
And we see, I mean, we have the weather data from the local Cape Canaveral weather station. You can see we're getting 20 knot winds right now, which is strong, but that is within the normal published flight criteria for an Atlas 5. So that, I mean, that's not the official data they're recording near the pad, obviously. So that should not be taken as like the number they're actually looking at, but as an approximate estimate of weather in a similar area. It seems like the wind right now is within launch limits.
Good
Yeah,
deal.
and there are just a couple of questions we are getting in chats as well. Rocketman is asking or saying that he's guessing there's a good chance they won't be going at 5:54 p.m. Eastern, the opening of the window. Nope, that's absolutely not happening
Not looking like
right
it.
now because they're still because they're still at T-minus 1 hour 47 minutes and holding here, and we're 24 minutes away from the opening of our window. So definitely not definitely not for that, but not completely out of the question for the possibility of launching before the end of the published window at 2010 Eastern or 8:10 p.m. Eastern.
And I just got an update to report. The the ULA teams report that so before they do propellant loading, they have to chill down all the associated equipment needed to do the propellant loading, and apparently that has now gotten too warm. So if they are to resume the countdown today, they will need at least 10 or 15 minutes to re-chill down all the propellant loading systems. So you can add 10 to 15 minutes on to our estimated time needed to be able to launch today because again they have to be able to chill down all their equipment again.
So basically that puts us at 2 hours 15 minutes needed from the moment they can restart the chill down to a rough estimate for when they'd be able to launch. So that would mean a decision would have to be coming fairly soon here because we are 2 hours 40 minutes away from our plan from the end of what is the published window today. So mathematics.
Nice. Chris, so I see some people asking questions about this built-in hold. You mentioned a built-in hold. Like, why? What's the deal with the built-in hold in the United Launch Alliance countdowns? Like, how does that even work?
Yeah, so actually, in terms of countdowns, you basically get two options. You can have a series It's basically plan times that you're going to stop counting down for and stop really progressing forward in your countdown sequence to allow teams time to adjust or catch up if work falls behind. This can come in really, really handy in summer months here in Florida, where work has to stop at the launch pads if lightning storms are passing overhead or close by. If you have, let's say, an hour and a half of built-in hold times there, that's an hour and a half that you could theoretically give up for a weather hold and still launch on time, versus what SpaceX opts to do, which is the moment you start your countdown, there is no built-in hold and you just count right down to zero. It's also what Russia does, and also what Europe does as well. So there's no one correct way or wrong way. It's just different philosophies of how you count down and what you protect for in countdowns.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll continue going through some questions here. Again, if you have a question for us, tag us in chat at NASA Spaceflight. I can grab this one real quick. Just Jeb to ask, how does Michael have a countdown in his ear? Is it possible for you to get it as well, or get it too? So Just Jeb, there is a launch net that is distributed to accredited media, and it's not publicly available. It's only given out to certain media organizations. NASA Spaceflight is one of those media organizations that has access to it, but we're not allowed to redistribute it or stream it. So A, we can't tell you what the number is, so you could dial in yourself. And B, we can't pipe that audio commentary into the live stream here. So that's just the sort of thing. SpaceX doesn't have they don't have a call in, I don't think, anytime recently, but they have that commentary, or the launch net that's up sometimes. But usually, if we get something that is provided to media but not publicly provided, we're not allowed to hand that out or rebroadcast that. So that's where we are with that. Not anything that we can get to you, but we can listen to it and we can give you updates. We can repeat what we hear, but we just can't give you that direct feed. Here's one, Chris. When do you expect
Yes.
the first Vulcan to launch?
Right now, that is currently scheduled for sometime in 2021. Most likely at this point, I would say mid 2021, based on where schedules seem to be falling right now.
Does it have like a mission, or is it going somewhere? Are they launching like Tory
Yes.
Bruno's horse into space, or what?
Not Tory Bruno's horse, but something equally awesome. They're launching the Peregrine lunar lander to the moon. So not only Vulcan's debut flight, but a very ambitious trajectory, including a translunar injection burn to get Peregrine into its transfer orbit.
So is that Vulcan that's supposed to get Peregrine on that translunar injection, or does Peregrine do it itself, or what's? I mean, first flight, Vulcan's going all the way to the moon.
Okay, well, there are different types of translunar injections.
Gotcha.
Yes, so I can totally, yep. So basically, your two different options are you can do an energy saving one where you basically spiral outward using Earth's gravity and small, efficiently timed burns that subsequently loop you out farther and farther and farther and farther and farther to the moon. And then you perform a similar series of arcing maneuvers as you spiral down into lunar orbit. That's a very propellant and energy efficient way to do it, versus what we saw in the Apollo era, where you're not necessarily going for, and what we'll see in Artemis as well, where you're not necessarily going for efficiency, but crew comfort and getting them there as quickly as possible. I believe the Peregrine mission itself is one of those spiral outward missions, where Vulcan will put it into a that low energy transfer, where it would take about a month to get into lunar orbit at that point.
Gotcha. Is that the same sort of orbit? I think the was it the Israeli lunar landing attempt did the same sort of spiral orbit, didn't it?
The Israeli one did, and so did the Chandrayaan-2 mission from ISRO last year.
There you go.
Yes.
So it comes down to, like, if you're sending crew out there, you don't want them to be hanging out for a month getting to the moon with this slow, efficient burn. So you send them sort of straight there, like you said, Artemis or back to the Apollo programs. And if you have a satellite that can take some time to get there, a lander it's not in a huge hurry to get there, it can be smaller, more efficient. You can have sort of the longer route, I guess. I guess
Exactly.
I mean,
Exactly. And sometimes that serves a couple and sometimes that actually serves a couple of good purposes, right? Because the longer your cruise time outward to the moon, the longer subsequent ride-along experiments and sensors can examine the environment, where we're talking about putting quite a few space stations and developing the cislunar economy, as we've been talking about for a while. So this is an area that a bit of extra time could work in your benefit as an added bonus to the mission.
Gotcha. I'm gonna keep grabbing some more questions here real quick. Rusty Can with the super chat saying, "Hey guys, great to hear y'all again. Love you guys." Rusty Can, thank you so much for the support. Welcome back to the stream as we stand by in a hold for NROL 101. I'm gonna grab another question here, Chris.
Yeah.
And this is concerning sort of the launch cadence and the line of rockets waiting to go at the Cape. We've got another
Okay.
mission coming up, GPS-3 and SpaceX. If ULA can't get this mission off today, would the GPS mission still go tomorrow, or does it all push? What would we know about that, or what would you guess about that?
Actually, can I take a chance at answering that
Yeah,
one?
Thomas, go ahead.
Go,
So
Thomas.
this morning we visited Pad 41, where the Atlas V is currently vertical, and the next door neighbor Pad 40 was completely empty, no rocket to be found. When we got here today, we saw Falcon 9 proud and vertical on Pad 40, so SpaceX is getting ready for a launch attempt tonight. Now, if Atlas V does not go tonight, there are two options. Atlas V can either wait and launch after GPS goes tomorrow, or Atlas V can launch tomorrow and GPS can be delayed. We do not know which of those options will be taken. No official statement has been given by either company about backup dates or things like that, and the Eastern Range has not specified either of those. So both of those are possible. SpaceX is, however, prepared to make a launch attempt tomorrow, as far as we're able to figure out. So that's the info we have.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. And the only thing I would add to that, Thomas, is that I would venture that what that ultimate decision will come down to is what the valve issue actually is in terms of how they resolve it. If it's something that they can resolve quickly in terms of like, oh, it's a couple of hours, but they would miss today's launch window, but they'll be fine for tomorrow. I can see the NRO coming in and saying, we have precedence, and we have priority on the range, so GPS has got to wait. But if
part
it takes
of
longer
that,
than that, GPS could be given to go ahead, like Thomas was saying.
Yeah, and part of that is normally when two launches are ready to launch around the same time, the Eastern Range and the payload customers involved decide which mission is more high priority. In this particular scenario, it would almost certainly be the NRO mission. The GPS satellite is part of an upgrade and a replacement for the GPS constellation, but it's not a time urgent launch. So therefore, that mission can afford to be on the ground for a while. While we don't know the exact purpose of the NRO mission because it is unclassified, it is very likely that it is a more urgent and time-sensitive launch, and they'd want to get that off first. So that's the other consideration.
Yeah, and in fact, there is some indication that what's launching tonight are replacement vehicles for and new generations of those vehicles for ongoing NRO missions in either low Earth orbit or a type of very highly inclined and highly elliptical orbits. But in regard to that, so that would make sense, Thomas, right? That with the sensitive nature of these, that it would potentially go first. And that's what we get. One thing, though, that is absolutely certain, there is no possibility of both of them going tomorrow, because their launch times are literally within 30 minutes of each other tomorrow. So there is no possibility of a doubleheader off the Cape tomorrow, given the launch times. So one will have to
Gotcha.
go for the other.
I agree. And another quick consideration that we were talking about earlier here.
Oh, wait. We have an update. Actually, that was just tweeted that the teams that re-entered the pad are preparing to leave and wrap up the work, and ULA is preparing to re-enter chill down operations for propellant loading.
Okay, that is great to hear. So the red team that was sent to the pad is getting ready to leave, and that means ULA can move back into the countdown and start getting ready for a launch attempt later in the window.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. I was just waiting for the opportunity to say that, and then you saw my tweet.
And I didn't actually see who tweeted it because I saw it on my watch, and just hit retweet and then went to actual Twitter and saw that it was you and said to myself, oh, I probably interrupted him from giving this himself. Love how this works.
To wrap up our conversation about the range conflict really quick, another consideration, there is a massive weather system headed towards Florida over this weekend. And anytime after Friday, it would be very difficult to conduct a rocket launch. So between these two launches, they kind of have 1 day of wiggle room. If one has to get to the past Friday, there might be an extended delay due to weather. So that's another thing to keep in mind over the next couple of days.
Indeed, and to sort of piggyback off what Thomas was saying there, what the system that he is referring to is Hurricane Eta that is over Central America right now. It is predicted to or projected to emerge back into the Caribbean, head up over Cuba, and be affecting Florida next week. Exactly where in Florida, we are uncertain. Various models have it anywhere from a panhandle Gulf Coast event, very devastatingly near the portions of Florida, Alabama, and Louisiana, and Mississippi, just by multiple hurricanes, to anywhere as a Key West, Miami event. So Florida will very much be watching the weather next week to determine what type of launch options we have as well, and also how a tropical system near Florida would potentially affect the crew launch coming up in 10 days. And the activities that surround that in the week prior to liftoff, when Falcon 9 gets hauled out to the pad and static fired and the crew arrives and has to go through all their stuff. So a lot to watch with the weather next week with wherever Hurricane Eta is going.
Gotcha. I'm gonna run a couple of
Stand by
questions.
for an important update. It
Oh, go
sounds
ahead.
like they need to do additional troubleshooting, and stand by.
All right. Again, Michael, listening in on the comms net there, we have sort of a media pipe that allows us to listen to some of the chatter from launch control.
Yeah, waiting for a final update, but it sounds like the issue may not actually be fixed. It sounds like they may have moved to a backup system, and that system is now displaying similar behavior, but I'm still waiting for a final outbrief.
Gotcha. So, like I said, Thomas, listening into the launch net there and giving us some updates. We may see a tweet and stuff like that as well, but as of now, continuing to troubleshoot that issue with the ground system valve that United Launch Alliance was talking about just a little bit ago. So again, if you're joining us, you can see upper left-hand corner. Let me answer a couple questions really quickly. This is NROL-101. It's on an Atlas V rocket out there, but it is currently in a hold. We cannot tell you how long the hold will be. We cannot tell you the new launch time because United Launch Alliance has not communicated that either on the launch net
And
or via
thus,
tweet.
they are going to stop the chill down they just began for the propellant lines.
Yep.
They are standing by for directive, but this does not at all sound promising for a launch attempt today. Again, no official word yet, but it is looking like they may be moments away from calling this launch attempt off. But until it's official, we don't know for sure.
Gotcha. Thank you, Michael. So if you hear anything, just jump in and let us know what the deal is. But we do not know right now, are they going to go for it? Have they discovered some issue that's going to call this to be scrubbed for today? It is a little bit of a window, but it does take them some time to work through the checklist to get the rocket ready. And they hadn't gotten, well, I guess they had gotten through a lot of the checklist, but there was still an hour or something left in their countdown whenever they entered this hold. So, like Michael said, stopping the chill down of the systems is definitely not a good sign, knowing that the window is going to tick away. I think the window is just about to open here, and the window was just over 2 hours long, right, Chris?
Yeah, and this becomes the tricky thing is the window is just over 2 hours long, and they need just over 2 hours to recommence everything and get to a liftoff. So I think not only if they're seeing additional issues like this, like Michael's been reporting as coming in over the net and everything, the comm net, that I think they're also coming up against just a physical barrier of time if the released end of window at 2010 EST 0110 UTC is indeed the close of the window, which it might not be because of the classified nature of this particular mission.
Gotcha. So again, we don't know the exact end of the window, because if we knew the exact end of the window, we might have a little bit more information about the satellite and its orbit. But because this is a classified NROL payload, we do not know exactly when that window ends. So we can't tell you right now exactly when ULA has to call it or not. I will tell you, ULA knows whether or not they can proceed. And I imagine if they get into a situation where they would not be able to proceed through the rest of the preparations for the rocket, they would go ahead and call it. But as of right now, we cannot tell you exactly what time the launch is going to be, because United Launch Alliance currently has that rocket in a hold as they troubleshoot the issue with that ground system valve.
Indeed.
So let's see if I can grab something else here. There were a couple questions about when's it going to launch and how long's the hold going to be. So I didn't name any specific question there, but if that was your question, that's what we were just sort of talking about. Here's a good one, Chris. As a Kerbal fan, I think you may have something to say about this. But Brightest Gaming asks, why are there two SRBs on one side and one SRB on the other? How is that possible?
I was waiting for this question. Yes. Yes. So this is something very, very special to the Atlas V rocket, in large part because of the Russian supplied RD-180 engine that it uses. The RD-180 has a wonderful thrust vector control
We have
system, a very wide thrust
Oh.
vector.
confirmed.
Well, just one second. Michael?
The mission director just called a scrub.
Oh. Sorry, Chris. Y'all, so Chris, we'll circle back to that question in just a second, but on the launch net, we just heard from United Launch Alliance. We can't play that audio out loud, but Michael Baylor just heard on the launch net that they were officially calling a scrub for the attempt at NROL-101 today. So again, be standing by for a tweet from United Launch Alliance or Tory or something like that, where they confirm that out loud. But they did say out loud on the launch net that we have access to that the launch director, mission director, which one was it, Tom? Michael?
Okay. Sorry, I have another update.
Oh, okay.
This is going to be a 48-hour recycle. So at this time, I presume a Falcon 9 may be able to launch tomorrow.
Ah. Okay. So that's something else they said on the launch net. And we were talking about that earlier, that GPS-3 mission on the SpaceX Falcon 9 scheduled to go out nearly the same time tomorrow. If this rocket takes 48 hours to recycle, that may mean that GPS-3 may continue on. We don't have official word on that, but if it's sort of a leapfrog thing and there's no conflict with this rocket attempting to go tomorrow, maybe the range will allow this to go. Chris, do you think that's a possibility? Is that something the range could do?
It would 100% be a possibility. The downrange ground footprints for the places where debris could fall in the event of an anomaly close to the ground during the early or opening moments of flight allows the Atlas pad to remain up and running with personnel out there while a Falcon 9 launches from the pad to the south. So there would be nothing necessarily from that perspective that would prevent, like that would make the Falcon a potential threat to Atlas on the pad.
Right.
However, that being said, this is the National Reconnaissance Office. Whatever they feel their needed safety is for their payload will get the priority. However, some insight into their line of thinking, there are a lot of howevers in this line of thought, if you can't tell.
Right.
However, it is worth noting that they accepted the flight safety risk of a Falcon 9 launching south very, very close to 37B with the NROL-44 payload on board earlier this year. So the NRO is not unreasonable in their requests for safety considerations. So there's that answer. A nice firm we don't know.
And there's the official tweet from United Launch Alliance just coming out. ULA saying, Mission Director Colonel Chad Davis has declared a scrub. ULA Launch Director Tom Heater III has relayed the decision to the launch team that the launch operations will not continue tonight. They'll be postured for another attempt in 48 hours. And that's direct from ULA via Twitter. The information on the scrub there. So again, this mission is scrubbed for tonight with a 48-hour recycle. Chris, with that late breaking news there, we ran all over your explanation about the 3 boosters. So let's hop back into that really quickly and finish up talking about how the Atlas 531 can fly. And sorry for jumping on top of you there.
No. These updates or those updates are far more important. But yes, this is actually a really cool ability for the Atlas V rocket, and a somewhat unique ability for the Atlas V rocket in the spaceflight world, where the RD-180 engine supplied by a Russian-owned company has a very, very good thrust vector control system and a very wide range of available thrust vector control. So what it can actually do is it can counter the offset of thrust from two solid rockets on one side and one on the other. It's the same reason that the Atlas can fly with 5 solid rockets in its most powerful configuration, and the same reason it can fly with just a single solid rocket booster, where it does that power slide off the launch pad.
Right.
So it all comes down to that engine's ability to keep the center of mass and the center of thrust aligned, even though there's is ultimately what that comes down to. And it's something that the Vulcan's BE4 main engines on its first stage will not have the ability to do. So Vulcan, unlike Atlas, does not have the ability to fly with an odd number of solid rockets. It will either fly with none, 2, 4, or 6, and nothing in between.
Good deal. So again, y'all, the sort of question we were in the middle of answering whenever we jumped on that announcement of the scrub from the CommsNet is this is a really wacky looking rocket. It has asymmetrical thrust on it, 2 SRBs on one side, 1 SRB on the other side. If you ever tried that in Kerbal with the stock SRBs, you know that it's not a recipe for success unless you spam a lot of reaction wheels or a bunch of engines that have a lot of gimbals on it. But ULA able to work out the math there and fix it so that, oh wow, it just got dark all of a sudden. It looks like the camera exposure is being changed. It wasn't the sun disappearing suddenly, y'all. That was
Yeah, that was my bad, guys.
it's just like suddenly, like the sun went down in a hurry.
There we go. Thomas has it good now. We can see the rocket detail better.
Yeah. And you can see it's a little bit, it's in focus now as well. You can get the details on the rockets there. So Thomas, thanks for sorting that. Again, y'all.
Unfortunately, on that note, we are going to be packing up here, so we're going to need to wrap up our remote camera feed because we're getting ready to leave the press site.
Yeah, so Thomas Burkhardt out there fighting the wind, reporting that they're going to have to pack up the remote camera on the ITL Causeway and get on out of Dodge. So we were going to, let's see here. Chris, what's our plan? I mean, we've got to shut down this camera. Thomas has to pack it up. We have a couple questions. Do you want to try and get another couple questions while we look at the fleet cam, or what do you want to do? You make the call, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, let's finish out some of the questions that we have. I think that's fair.
All right, good deal. So I'm going to go ahead and flip us over to the live view from Port Canaveral like this, and we'll get hopefully a nice sun's already down over there, I think, but you can see that cargo ship and one of the SpaceX drone ships there. But
This
let's
is
answer
actually
some more questions.
this would actually have been launch time.
Oh, right now, 5:54.
Right now, 17:54. Yes. So you can see why we were all really nerdily excited for launch at this time. 19 minutes after sunset, it would have been
It would have been
gorgeous.
Oh,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
I was trying to figure out where the rocket's going to be in relation to this camera. And I think it's either going to just go just behind the cabin or the bridge of that ship, or possibly just to the left. So I don't know if that's like an interesting shot, or if we badly want that ship to move before the I mean, we definitely want the ship to move by tomorrow evening, because we have a clear shot of Slick 40 where Falcon 9 is going to be launching the GPS mission from tomorrow. So hopefully the ship gets out of the way. But if the ULA launch had occurred today, it would have been interesting to get that boat in frame with the launch, potentially happening right behind it.
It would have looked really cool if it looked like the rocket was coming out of the cargo hold of that ship, because
Yeah.
the holds are opened up. You can see half of a helipad there. It's lit up in green, and those holds are all, those big doors of the holds are all opened up right now. It'd look cool if the rocket was coming out of the hold. Clearly, that's not actually how it works. But let's grab some more questions here, Chris. Again, we're over here on the fleet cam. We've been running a 24-hour test of this camera now for, I don't even know how many days. Does this tell me? Like it was like since the 19th or something like that. So we've been doing a 24-hour test from Port Canaveral. Not a lot happening at the port there today. We got SpaceX. I think yesterday they sent one of those fairing catcher ships out. But besides the ASDS being there and a fairing catcher ship being way off in the background, the lower left-hand corner, you can see the arm sticking up. Not a lot of rocket activity happening at Port Canaveral today. Let me grab some questions here for you, Chris, and
Yeah.
see if we can just put some of these out. We already talked, there's a couple questions about the asymmetrical booster layout and that sort of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and mark some of those as answered. Let's see. So here's one. This is from Maruto Osriva saying, according to the first post in NSF forums thread, it used to be a 551. A couple people actually saying that it was a 551 according to our own forums, and no information on why they changed it.
I think that was just speculation based on the contract that ULA had been given. That does not actually say what the rocket configuration is. People try to infer based on the trajectory, previous launch history, what the value of the contract was. People try to predict. I think it's going to be this type of rocket, but I don't think it was ever officially a 551, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha. So that might wrap that up. With the secretive nature of the National Reconnaissance Office launches, NROL, that's actually what NROL stands for. Sometimes we have to guess, and maybe what happened there was originally that was the guess as to what it was going to be.
And it's possible too that because sometimes sometimes we do get insights into pricing points for these missions, right? Just because NRO missions are classified doesn't mean how much the NRO pays for them is.
Gotcha.
The
Let's see.
most likely candidate based on the price, because the more solids you add, the bigger the payload fairing you add, the higher that price climbs. But NRO pays for a whole bunch of extra stuff as well, as does NASA, as does any customer when that basic price needs to be augmented with other services. So sometimes that can affect what initial thought processes are in terms of what configuration we've got for various vehicles.
Gotcha. Speaking of NROL launches, do we have any updates on NROL 44 on that Delta IV Heavy? Do we have any dates or anything on that?
Only that the last I saw, it was still planned to take place before the next NROL mission on the Delta IV Heavy out of Vandenberg. That went out of California is in December, and NROL 44 out of the Cape was still ahead of it. But that's the only real update we've got, is it's still before the one in December.
And the NRO recently tweeted too that the next two NRO missions were NROL-101, the one we were supposed to see this evening, but also SpaceX's NROL-108 mission was the second upcoming mission. So, and that mission is currently November 18th, I believe. So that would mean NROL-44 would have to be after November 18th.
Gotcha. So
there we go.
That's the information we have on NROL 44 that's still over there with the Delta IV Heavy.
So what that interestingly means though is that ULA is right now slated to end their year in the last 6 weeks of the year with 2 Delta IV Heavy missions, which would be a breakneck turnaround for that. Vehicles on 2 separate pads and have been on their pads processing for their missions, one for well over a year at this point, the one here at the Cape. So it's still worth noting that that would be a pretty quick turnaround given this vehicle's flight history between the two.
Gotcha. Let's see here. Are the new GEM-63 SRBs certified for Starliner? Are these the same SRBs that would be on Starliner, or what's?
They will eventually, yes, they will eventually be used for Starliner missions. The current plan is to have a mixture of Northrop Grumman GEM-63s and flying out the remainder of the Aerojet Rocketdyne AJ-60A manifest in 2021 next year. So we'll be moving back and forth between the GEMs and the AJ-60As next year, and then the complete changeover. So they will be used to launch Starliner missions, which is one of the reasons why Northrop Grumman designed them to very closely match the performance of the AJ-60As, which are human rated.
Gotcha. All right, that brings us down. I mean, there's a ton of questions. We could probably sit here answering questions forever, but that brings me to the end of what I had in the queue right now. Let's talk about some other things that we know are going on, other streams that you may see here on the NASA Spaceflight channel. Any update on what's next and when for SN8? Switching gears down to Starship at Boca Chica down in Texas. I know that a road closure was canceled for today, but some stuff is on for tomorrow, isn't it?
We are expecting a static fire tomorrow in Boca Chica. I don't think Mary has received her warning notice yet. If she has, she did not. She was not able to tell. She was not able to relay that information to us yet. She might still be out taking videos as usual, but sometime this evening we expect Mary to get a warning notice for a static fire operations tomorrow, November 5th, sometime between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. local time. Boca Chica is in Central Time Zone, so if you want to convert your time, go based on Central Time. But possible static fire tomorrow, and then also that GPS launch, which for now seems to still be on, despite the scrub with the Atlas V. So the GPS-3 mission is scheduled for 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow. So a possibility of multiple broadcasts from us tomorrow.
Gotcha. We'll, of course, be standing by and watching what there is. If there's something to stream, if they start to close that road at Boca Chica, or we get word from SpaceX that GPS-3 mission is marching forwards, we will have the live streams here to share them with you. You know how to get back to us, right? Follow the channel here. You can like and subscribe, turn on notifications. Get a lot of complaints about the YouTube notifications not always working very well. So suggest you follow on Twitter as well if you want to get notifications. The best place to follow on Twitter is at NASA Spaceflight, the prime NASA Spaceflight Twitter account there. But you can also follow Chris G, myself, Michael. Most of us do these retweets anytime that there's some sort of stream that you don't want to miss. So we'll get a couple of those links into chat really quickly and toss a couple Twitter follows in if you don't trust the YouTube notifications. But I believe for now we're going to go ahead and call it as we get a fantastic sky above Port Canaveral there. That is it almost looks like a painting. Those birds flying by are sort of wacky with the shutter speed on this camera that we're using. But here is the official NASA Spaceflight Twitter account right here. There it is like that. Follow that. I'm K Space Academy, putting it into chat there. You can also follow Chris G_NSF. That's Chris Gebhardt, who was on here doing some Q&A. Chris, thanks for the time this evening.
Of course, my absolute pleasure, and it was good to be back.
Can we say evening? It's like pitch dark outside, but it's 6 p.m. Time changes are ridiculous.
Love the time of year.
Yeah, you do?
I really do. Yes, I love. Yeah. I mean, I don't like the time. I don't like changing the time because I feel like that's completely artificial and unnecessary. I wish
Yeah,
we'd
yeah.
just pick one and stick with it. If I had my vote for which one to pick, I'd pick standard time just because I love it when it's dark at 6 p.m. But that's me.
Man, I look outside, it's like 5:30 and it's almost dark, and I'm like, what's going on? Jeez. Either way, also there's a link to Next Spaceflight's Twitter. Michael Baylor running some things behind the scenes for us in producing the live stream. Michael, thank you for joining us as well this evening.
No problem. And if anyone has questions, we will be back to stream this launch whenever it happens. So hold on to your questions until next time.
Yeah, absolutely. Be looking for that 48-hour turnaround. United Launch Alliance tweeting that it was a 48-hour recycle on this mission here. So when they get back to another launch attempt, we'll certainly be here covering it. Hey, also thanks to Thomas Berghardt running the camera in the field out there from the ITL Causeway earlier, packing it up and headed out. And then you get a scrub. It happens, but he came all the way down, got the camera gear set up, showed up on time, and brought us those views of the Atlas V on the pad earlier. So Thanks to Thomas Burkhardt as well. And then I'm John Galloway with NASA's Space Flight here back at the studio, doing some live commentary and clicking in such a way that makes all the lights sometimes blink in the proper order. But that will conclude our live commentary and coverage for the NROL-101 unfortunate scrub this evening. United Launch Alliance not getting that rocket off the ground due to an issue with some ground service equipment valve, a ground service equipment valve as per their tweets. But 48 hours to recycle that. We'll be here on the channel. Maybe a GPS-3 launch with SpaceX tomorrow. Maybe some Boca Chica testing. Either way you slice it, if there's something to share with you, the NASA Spaceflight team will be here to bring it to you live. But for now, appreciate everybody coming through. Thanks for the super chats and stuff like that. Hey, if you grab something from the shop, thank you for the support. I do hope that we do not need to make a Scrubvember. That doesn't even work out. Scrubvember. I don't like that.
No. You got to go with no shave November, so no launch November.
But I was hoping
keep up with like.
I was hoping it was a no scrub November because that works out really well. But here we are. It's the 4th, and we got a scrub. So, anyways,
you gotta stay balanced.
Anyways, y'all, thank you so much for joining us. And this is NASA Spaceflight Team signing off for this evening. You go over and stick to Fleet Cam. I'll put that link in chat if you want to continue this. But we are going to go ahead and sign off for now. Thank you all for watching.
Pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roll with Atlantic. Water towers fly! Flight down by speed off. Speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.